I'm live. Okay, let's do this. All right, we are finishing sensation and perception from where we left off during block today. So if you were not, everyone here was in block, yeah?
No.
Okay. Not food. I love your face. Okay. If you were not in block today, please watch part 1 that I've already uploaded on Google Classroom and whatever. So, there's such a glare, you can barely see the board, but it should have been here. So at the end of block today, we were talking about the 2 theories of why we see color, the opponent process theory and the trichromatic theory. Because of its importance and because I felt like I was cut off by the bell and then people kind of scrambled, I'm going to go over those again. The trichromatic theory says that we have, remember, keep in mind, I'm saying we have 3 colors of cones. What colors are they?
Red, green, and blue.
Red, green, and blue. A lot of people think it's like red,
Yellow.
blue, and yellow because those are the primary colors, but it's not primary colors. It's red, green, and blue. And just keep in mind that I keep saying that as if it's fact. It's just a theory. Like the theory is that we have 3 cones. I don't even know if that's true. It's just theory. So, but it would explain why people are colorblind because they're missing one of the 2 cones. So the theory is we have 3 and colorblind people only have 2. So it explains color blindness. But the opponent process theory is all like, well, every color has an opposite and they work in harmony to see color. And when you overwork one, let's say you're looking at something green, really, really bright green, the world is not such like stark colors like that. And colors don't typically just burn into your brain and burn into your retina. And so if you see something really green, it wears out the green parts of your retina, the green color receptors. And so the opposite of that is red. So when you look away from the green thing, you're going to see its opposite, red, and the idea of after image effects. I'm going backwards. What's going on? After images. So while trichromatic theory explains color blindness, opponent process theory doesn't, but it explains after images effect, why we have that after image effect. Of course, trichromatic doesn't explain after images. So they each have their strengths of what they explain, but then that's why there's a theory because it doesn't explain the whole sight and why we see colors. Okay. All right, let's talk about hearing, which we didn't talk about in class at all. Really, I think we had like one quiz question about maybe the order of things in your ears.
Yeah.
Like going from the outside of your ear to the inside of your ear. So we have like, it's not going to ask you, but like the flap is pinna. I don't know, that sounds like, I don't know. And then we have the ear canal, don't stick Q-tips down it type of thing. And then we have the ear drum. That is the outer ear. So if it asks like something outer ear, it's just talking about like everything like before the eardrum. Summer?
No, he was doing like the drumming thing and then I just got it. It took a minute.
Oh.
It's fine, don't worry about it.
And then the middle ear, I kind of drew the line right in the middle of the middle ear. It should be more like whoa. Okay, and then the middle ear, it contains those 3 little bones. Do y'all know the 3 little bones?
Hammer.
And then after hammer, I want you to think of like Acme and like Roadrunner. Anvil.
Doesn't it spell like hat? There's just S. The next one's an S.
Yes, and I want you to, yes, horses, stirrup. Okay, hammer, anvil, stirrup are the 3 little bones in the ear, in that order. Those are like the code name, not code name. That's like the everyday name. That's not the functional name. Like this is not like doctors are not like the jaw. We call it the jaw. It's a mandible. But like our words are hammer, anvil, stirrup. But there are other and ossicles. Ossicles. If you see that term, where'd it go? Gosh, why is it going backwards? Ossicles. I don't see it. Okay, cool. Maybe it's in your packety thing. It's like OSS under hearing. I'm looking for hearing. I don't see anything Yeah. Okay. So we'll talk more about those theories. Like there's theories of color, trichromatic, and opponent process. There's theories of sound as well. So I'll get back to this, but I do want to look at the pitch theories. Okay. We'll do this more, and then we'll look at the last slide again. Okay. So pitch theories of. Okay. First off, what is pitch?
Like the low and high.
Yeah, not like volume, not like quiet and loud, but like low and high. Of course, I should have high versus like low. So there are once again two theories of why we hear like different pitches, low pitches versus high pitch, and they're called place theory and frequency theory. And I love this is kind of awesome because the name of the theory describes the theory itself. The place theory says, so here is, there's that term again, basal membrane. Okay, so from what I can understand, there's like a snail-shaped thing. What is that called? The cochlea. It's got little hairs on it, right? Apparently there's like a membrane as well, and like little hairs. Okay. The place theory is basically saying that there are different places on this basilar membrane that hear certain pitches. Like this little place over here is for low pitches. And this is like for medium pitches. And this is for like high pitches. It's located on like different places on the cochlea is assigned with different pitches. That's place theory. Because that makes sense. The place on like where it is determining pitch. While frequency says, no, it's not about where it is. It's about the frequency of the hair vibrations. So we have like this, the cochlea again, and little hairs on it. And so if it's like a really low sound, it's going to slowly vibrate back and forth. It'll be like low. Versus if it's something high pitched, it'll vibrate faster and the little hairs will vibrate faster. So it's about the frequency of the shaking, of the vibration of the hairs. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, it's kind of really simple in terms of like, you know the word place versus frequency, and then it's like based on the location of the place, based on how fast it's moving, frequency. Okay, let's go back to inner workings of the ear. It's everywhere. Hey Michelle, do you mind closing the door? Thank you. Okay, so I don't know what this is. What does that say? Speed of frequency, speed or frequency? Okay, so sound waves are flowing around. Varies pitch of highs and lows. You've got to be kidding me. I'll do it. I'll.
Angel's close.
Oh my god.
Oh no.
She's out to get them.
You heard it, right?
Yeah, I heard it. It was like
No.
Jonathan, was that you? Are you Jonathan? The other Jonathan.
the recording. It's like
There's a random kid right next to my husband walking. They're not together. Like they were just walking. I said Jonathan, and both of those people, my husband, and then the other Jonathan. He's like me. Like I don't know the kid. I'm like Jonathan. He's like, she's yelling at me. She knows my name, full name. Oh God. See the things that you miss when you don't come to dinner. All right. So, what is decibels?
Like measure the loudness.
Yeah, so you hear like a plane like taking off is however many decibels. And okay, so if you see the term decibels, it's talking about like ear, it's talking about loudness. It's not talking about like taste or touch or like sight or whatever. Okay, and the sound waves are funneled by the funnel you call your ears. That's why they're shaped that way, to bring in lots of different sound waves. Okay, we talked about the middle ear being the hammer, anvil, and the stirrup, in case you missed those the spellings of anvil and stirrup. And they turn those waves into, they turn those vibrations into, like, from the eardrum, they, like, pass them along to, like, the cochlea. They're kind of connected to that little snail-shaped thing. Okay. The cochlea is where transduction occurs. What was transduction again? You said this earlier.
Sound waves.
Translating, in this case, sound waves to neural messages. So transduction happens in the cochlea for the ears, but where does it happen in the eyes?
Right.
In the retina. And so transduction is just converting those different types of energy for seeing, it's light, and for sound, it's vibration, but into neural messages, because our brain doesn't understand vibration. It understands like neurotransmitters and action potential. That's what it understands. Okay. Okay. We said this. Temporal lobe is hearing. Okay, good. I'm telling you maybe one question about hearing. And if it is, it's going to be about this, the place theory or the frequency theory. Or if there is a question about hearing, it's either one or the other, the two types of hearing loss, conductive and sensory neural. That's a really long paragraph. Is it written shorter here?
Yeah.
2B. Oh, D, yes. It says explain hearing loss, conductive hearing loss. I don't like that. It says problems with conducting sound through ear. Well, I know that you can spell through that way.
Oh.
Yeah. I just typically it's like, isn't that like the British way of doing it? I don't even know.
I thought that was just like slang.
You can
Like you don't.
like I've seen that. No, I've
Oh, it's like through paths. Like they use it for roads.
yeah.
like drive through.
Yes, drive through.
But I feel like it's kind of like slang.
I don't
It's
feel
like just a short version.
Yeah.
Anyways, okay, so I don't necessarily love this because it says it's using the word conduction, defining conductive deafness. But basically, if you have a problem with anything, the picture of the ear's gone. If you have a problem with anything before the cochlea, that's conductive hearing loss. Like the eardrum was damaged, or the bones in the ear, you get hit in the side of the head or whatever, and the bones are damaged. It's all before the cochlea. Well, but and that can or can't be fixed.
Yeah.
Okay, but nerve deafness, also called sensory neural hearing loss, those are synonyms. So this isn't like a third thing. Nerve deafness is just sensory neural, it's just a little bit more specific. Sensory neural cannot be fixed, and it's typically when there is the hair cells. Oh, it's also called there we go. The hair cells on the cochlea are not working. Maybe I always think of like your cochlea is baldia. And if the cochlea is baldia and the hairs have to vibrate for you to hear, and there are no hairs there, then they can't vibrate. They can't do stuff. So it says when the hair cells in the cochlea are damaged, or I don't know, babies are like born deaf sometimes with they need like the cochlear implants. I don't know how that works.
Is it permanent? Which one?
Can't be fixed.
Yeah.
Well, like
I hear one.
the hearing one, but like I don't know how that's working because you hear like those babies. I don't get that, but it's like like hearing aids with fixed, because what's wrong is the outer part. Like think of where a hearing aid is. It's on the outer part where the conduction would be. But if it's sensory neural, that is like more inside, and like an outside hearing aid wouldn't help with that.
I have sensory neural.
But sensory not able. But like these cochlear implants now fixes. I knew he did it. I knew it. Fine, go ahead. Someone let him in. I'll let him in.
Do you think he was paying earlier?
No, but I heard that kid's name was.
Yeah,
Hey, am I picking up Matthew or you?
I said that I would because I've got 10 minutes left? Okay,
Is that good?
sure.
3 hours?
I make good choices. And I have 3 hours to do all.
Really proud. Now it's fun.
Yeah, usually usually when people have 3 hours of DHL, it doesn't really come with too much shame. They wear it as like a badge of honor. Whatever. Okay.
Taylor,
Hello.
Remember you we had to watch like for class the answer to the question you were asking.
Was it? Did I say this wrong?
No, like it's just that you can't get like a cochlear implant because it's like you lose the ability to detect higher frequency sounds. So that's why you can't.
Oh, so it's like,
It's separate, I think.
okay,
Like it's apart. Maybe like
So the cochlear implant would fix,
but it's not fixing it completely.
but it would like help you to still hear somewhat, or,
You would hear someone, but you wouldn't hear what we hear.
but it like sounds maybe not.
Pitches. Pitches might be hard to
So
recognize.
you could like hear like words.
Yes. People that have cochlear implants, they typically either love it or they hate it.
They just hear like monotone.
What if they hate it?
They hate it a lot of the times. That
Oh,
little,
did they
I
just
saw a
hate it?
documentary. This couple, they were both deaf, and they had been deaf for like ever, and they were in their 50s, and they both like decided to get cochlear implants, and they both hated it. They spent thousands of dollars. They used all their savings. When we can finally hear. Well, they got used to being deaf. They had always known, and so they just never wore them because it's like it's in your head, but there's like a magnet thing that sticks on. So they just never wore them because that's what activates it. And because like right now, like the air conditioning's on, and we are not focusing on it because so we don't really hear it. But like people that have never perceived sound, never heard sound, they can't. The idea of like selective attention and habituation doesn't work for them. We had to learn how to tune things out, and we got used to it. They couldn't. They said like the sound of Josh like throwing up and catching would be just as loud for them as like their own voice. So it's just really hard to like drown that out because you shuffling papers and someone like doing like whatever. It's all
crazy.
yeah.
Basically.
Yeah, they feel like they're going crazy. Like they went from a really quiet world to everything very, very loud. And they can't
Well,
separate.
because you can't turn.
Right. Or it's like, I can't hear you talking because they're tapping their pen. Like I can only hear them tapping their pen. It's like, so everything. You're not, okay. So there was a question today about bottom up and top down processing. It started at the very beginning. I think it was the wrong answer, but it was an answer choice. And so I want you to think of this triangle. Remember, it's an upside down triangle. While this is like big concept, and this is like details, tiny little details.
Wait, are you talking about that question that was on the?
Number 4.
Yeah,
it's like
you looked
this.
at the key and you said that it was top down. We asked you about it. Me and Jay asked you about it, and you looked at the key and you said that it was top down.
No.
Oh, well, you're right.
Yeah.
Yes,
So it was something.
it was. It wasn't feature detectors.
No.
It wasn't feature detectors.
It wasn't.
It wasn't. Feature detectors is just saying there's parts of your like occipital lobe that detect certain like angles and shapes. So like if it said like one part of your brain lights up for circles while another part of your brain lights up for squares, that's feature detectors because that's how it works.
Okay.
There are certain detectors in our occipital lobe that see certain features. Yeah. So sorry to Josh. To complete.
He's telling his partner that he got it right.
Oh yeah, because
You're so
they
mean.
were. Oh yes.
Oh. Okay. Okay. I didn't like that question. So top down is looking at this triangle from top down. Keep in mind it has to be upside down. Otherwise, you're going to get all the questions wrong.
Kind of like the title and then the words.
Right.
Paragraphs.
Right. So yeah, the title versus the words of the paragraph, or just the overall like.
Like the cover of the book. Would that be it? Like
Yeah.
the content?
Yeah.
The cover of the book and then like actually reading the book.
Right. Or if you ever like see a painting and you're like, oh, that painting. Think of a political cartoon. Okay. What is this a picture of? Oh, there are people in a courthouse. Okay, let's look at the tiny details. Who exactly is that person? What are they holding? What's over there in the corner?
This was the thing with the Dalmatian.
Yes, yeah, with Dalmatian, yeah. Or so that's like top down. But if it's bottom up. Oh. then you're going to be looking at the tiny details first. So I think they teach you at the very first time when you're very first looking at a political cartoon, they're probably like, hey, what is this a picture of? Now look at the tiny details. But think of it like the last time you were writing a DBQ. You probably are like, let me see who's in this before I even look at what's going on. Do I see any names? Do I see any dates? Do I see any titles? What are they holding? And then you're probably like, oh, this is a picture of Reconstruction or something like that. Hopefully with DBQs, you're looking at the details first because you don't have any time typically to look at oh, what is this all about? You probably are like, let me get to the details. Let me find something to pull out of this political cartoon. Okay. Gestalt is not a name. A lot of people think it's like Mr. Gestalt or something. I don't know. It's not a name. If there is a question about Gestalt, it is a perception question.
Oh, the panda thing you said, right?
Yes. That was one of the panda thing. Was it on the flashcards on Quizlet that it was like a panda?
And
Or
the
like,
little triangle like with the.
No, it's like those little Pac-Man.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
Yes, well, there's- yes.
The-
yes. And so we see things by proximity, things that are close together, we see them as together. Things that are similar, we see them as together. Closure is like, we see this as like a circle, even though it's not. It's a weird U or something. And then continuity means like we don't see this as like semicircles. We see this as a continuous line with like another line intersecting. So there's a whole bunch of Gestalt levels. And, that's because we see the world as like simple and whole. Because remember, Gestalt basically means whole, but it also means form. So I want you to think of it, combine those. Let's have it a whole form, a whole form, a whole form. Form being like another way to say shape. And then we see the world, when we see the world is not changing in the following ways: brightness, size, and shape. There was a test question one time. Something about a frisbee. Someone throws a frisbee at you, and as it's coming closer, you don't see it as growing. You see it as it getting closer, and then it was like, why? It's because size and shape. The shape of the frisbee is not changing. The size of the frisbee is not changing. We assume them as constant. So when a frisbee does look like it's getting bigger, we know it doesn't, so it's got to be getting closer. It's just a way to be like, I know that if I see like Josh walking down the hallway, I know Josh isn't shrinking. I know that because I have learned to perceive over time. I'm just seeing him getting further away. And then as he's getting closer, I'm not seeing him as growing. That would be terrifying. To see someone like getting closer and they're literally like, and I'm like, oh my God. That right there. Yeah. We see people remaining constant, remaining the same size and shape. And even if I was to turn the lights off, I don't perceive you as getting darker. I perceive the room as getting darker. You're not changing color.
Oh, I think it's the one about like the video we watched about the man that was like in the room with the cliff and we thought
That, like,
he was
went
like
in like
giant.
that.
Yes.
and then-
Oh, what is
yeah.
that name?
The Ames.
The Ames room. I knew that you were gonna. I was like
Yeah.
hoping that you would say that. It was the Ames room. Be familiar if they said Ames room. Remember what room that is.
But what if I only
AMES.
But what if I know the person?
What?
What if I only know the person?
What if you know who person?
The person that associates with that room.
Who is the person?
Phillips and Bardo.
No, Philip Zimbardo was just in the video. He did not make that room. Philip Zimbardo is prison. Yes, as in prison bars. Zimbardo, prison bars. Yes, about role playing. Yes.
Yeah.
Solomon Ash draws the lines. Shocking Stanley Milgram and prison Zimbardo. Prison bars. That's how I remember.
You said something about people that they couldn't do that second sense seeing those things.
Yes.
They were blind and then they.
Yes. So these are things that we actually learn. We learn how to talk. We don't learn how to walk. We're already born learning it. And you think we learn how to, we are born perceiving, knowing these things. No, we learn it. And so if we were born blind and then regain sight later on in life, we would see Josh shrinking as he went away.
So for like babies or like small child, they have those type of things like, oh, this getting bigger, but
Yeah.
they realize it's not.
Yeah. I don't know if I said this experiment in class, but they took these kittens and they put them in like a cage think of it as a big cage. But the cage had think of wallpaper of stripes, white and black stripes all the way around. And then they raised this kitten in this cage. And when they took the kitten out after 6 months, so it's like a teenager kitten, the cat could not perceive horizontal lines because it had only seen vertical lines. And so when they saw a horizontal line, it would just run right into it. They couldn't perceive it as they couldn't see it.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, they put
They just, didn't see it.
They just
it
didn't
wasn't
see
there.
it. They just couldn't perceive. We don't know if they hey cat, what do you think it was? They just run into it. So we're well, then what are they seeing? Can they see it? Can they perceive it? They're obviously not perceiving it and seeing it the way that a normal kitten would.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, and selective attention means when we focus on our attention on one thing at a time, we ignore everything else. Do you remember the counting the basketballs?
Yeah.
Or the tosses? Yeah?
Oh, yeah, that was.
Yeah. And that was selective attention, but it was also called unintentional blindness because we are unintentionally blind to the gorilla or whatever that came through. And if you ever see this term, Stroop effect, you've probably seen this on Twitter or whatever, where they have name. No, I actually have it. Hold on. Stroop effect. This is going to be under psychology. Nope. Maybe psychology. Sensation of perception. Nope. Sensation of perception. Yes. Stroop. I know you've seen this. This is the Stroop effect.
Oh.
And then you say the color, not the name. And so you would say blue, green, red, yellow, blue. Okay, it's really hard to do because of selective attention. Because you're focusing on two things at a time. Your brain at one point wants to read, but then you're told to say the color only, and it's hard to do.
Wait.
Not that hard.
It's harder to say the color than red.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, okay.
You're supposed to, it's supposed to be hard to say. It's easy to say red, blue, green, yellow, but it's hard to say blue, green, red, yellow, blue,
red.
It's hard to do it. That's the Stroop effect. When you're selecting attention on two things, it's hard to do just the one.
What is it called?
Stroop.
I thought that was huge. I thought you just said unintentional blindness.
No. Selective attention is unintentional blindness, and you can show that with the Stroop test. With the Stroop test. Stroop. Yeah. Okay. All right, one more thing, I think. Okay, depth perception. Let's talk about. Yeah, that's it. Okay. Let's just talk about these two things. Binocular and monocular cues of depth perception. This is seeing 3D. We had a practice FRQ the other day, maybe? I feel like retinal disparity or convergence, we just talked about it.
Retinal disparity.
Yes, but was it an FRQ?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Part of the dance.
Yes, that's right. It was part of the answer. So both these help you see 3D, help you see depth, and they both need two eyes. Even if you had one eye, you could still see depth perception, but you could only be using monocular cues. So binocular cues requires two eyes, whether it is the images between the eyes because your eyes are 2 inches apart and your retinas are getting two different things. Disparity means the difference. There's a disparity between these two eyes. There's a difference between these two eyes. Or convergence is the angle of the eyes, like the muscle angle. And so if you're looking at my finger or you're looking at your nose or whatever, your eyes are strained and your eye muscles are telling your brain they're strained, must be close. Not strained, must be further away. While retinal disparity is one hand in front of one eye, close one eye, open it, close the other eye, open it. Those are completely different images.
Like the dot with the blind spot where you hold it. And
That was just blind spot.
Okay.
Yeah. But if you have one hand in front of you, open one eye, close the other one, open the other eye, close the other one. Those are two different images because your hand's really close. You do that with your hand further away. Those are basically the same picture. Even further away, the wall, I see no difference. because it must be far away. This must be close because of a huge disparity between my eyes.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if any of you got to this question today. It was a picture. It was all like, I don't know. It looked like this or something.
Oh,
yes.
Something. Yeah. It was
Okay.
like a linear.
So that is a monocular cue. Should have been linear perspective. Okay. But relative size, if something that is the same size looks like it's bigger, it's close. If something is going really, really fast past your window, it's close. That's why you never pass the sun. It's really far away. And then interposition, I am physically blocking some of your view. I must be closer than the board. Shadowing, ooh, look how far away this dark shadow is than this light area. Texture. Texture is like, if think of a portrait or something or a picture of a field, you can always see all the individual blades of grass, but then like over here it's just like all green. But here it's like I can see like not only different textures, but I can see like different shapes. Like look at the carpet. The carpet next to your feet, you can see all the individual, you can see the texture of the carpet. You can also see all the individual colors. It's like there's pinks and reds and blues and greens, but look like far away on the carpet. It all just looks gray.
A little bit of color.
A little bit of color, but not as much texture, not as much color difference as right by your feet. That is basically I guess perceptual set. If it's in a set, you're more likely to like, what is this lame? Remember it was like a seal, but a bald man.
Oh yeah, it's like.
I was like, what land mammal is this? Or whatever. I was like, that's a donkey. And I'm like, what sea mammal is this? And I was like, it's a seal. But it was also a rat. It was a rat that looked like a bald man.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. It was all like chicken, turkey, whatever, rat. And it was like woman, person, whatever,
And the
bald
same-
man. Based on the set that it was in, we perceived it differently. But it's the same picture. Okay, so have a great weekend. Those of you that are going to prom, stay safe and make good choices. Bye.